Okay, and let's talk about a couple different types of lines. Let's talk about vertical and horizontal lines. Okay, so what if the slope of a line is 0? If the slope of a line is 0, it will be totally horizontal. So let's write the equation of a line that would have a slope of 0. So it would be like y equals 0x. And then the y-intercept can be whatever you want. Let's say we wanted a y-intercept of 3. Y equals 0x plus 3. But why would we bother writing 0x? We wouldn't. Because it doesn't matter what x is. That's always going to be 0. So really, you could just write the equation like y equals 3. So anytime you see an equation where it's like y equals a constant, like a number, you know right away that is going to be a horizontal line. 1, 2, 3. And it's going to have a y-intercept of 3, this one. And what else this equation is telling us is that y is always equal to 3. So it doesn't matter what x is. Like if x was 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, what would y be? Still 3. If x was negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what would y be? 3. So y will always be 3. So there you go. Horizontal line with a y-intercept of 3. You can make any horizontal line equation you want by following that format. Let's say y equals negative 1. If we wanted to make that equation, if we wanted to graph that, it would just be a horizontal line going through y equals negative 1. Let's say we wanted y equals, you could still have y equals 0. That would be like right on the x-axis. So all of these lines have a slope of 0 and they are horizontal. And they all have this same looking equation in common. Y equals a number. Okay, let's look at something a bit different. How could we represent a vertical line? So it's a little bit weirder. Ooh. But let's draw one first. So let's say we had a vertical line going through x equals 4. So I'm going to make that vertical. So if we follow the same logic from the horizontal, where it's like y equals 3, y equals negative 1, y equals 0, you could probably guess that the equation is going to be x equals 4. And why? Because literally x is always 4. So what happens when y is 5? X is 4. What happens when y is 1? X is 4. So it doesn't matter what y value we pick, x will always be 4. So this is how we write the equation of a vertical line. Now, the weird thing about vertical lines are their slope. So like, you know, slope, like this is a 0 slope. Maybe this has a slope of like 1, 2, 3. You know how like as the line gets steeper, the slope gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's straight up and down. So what would we call the slope of that line? Well, if you think about it like this, remember we learned an equation for slope? So the equation we learned for slope was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if I use that equation, okay, let's say I use these 2 points. So I have a point here, x is 4 and y is, what was it, 5? And here x is 4 and y is 1. So let's say I use my slope formula. So I have to subtract my y's. So 5 minus 1. And then I have to subtract my x's, 4 minus 4. So 5 minus 1 is 4, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So what happens when we divide by 0? Nothing good. You can't divide by 0. So we will call this undefined. We will say the slope of a vertical line is not defined. It's undefined. Because that happened Okay, so now we know the slope of a horizontal line is 0 and the slope of a vertical line is undefined. It also doesn't have a y-intercept unless, I guess if you had an equation like x equals 0, then your line would have how many y-intercepts? Like an infinite number. Every point would be a y-intercept. Would you still call it a y-intercept? I don't know. Okay, so that's how horizontal and vertical lines work.